This is Surya Saha, the author of The Digital Choices, and you're listening to the Insurtech Story podcast, the platform to spread knowledge on insurance innovation, digital disruption, and entrepreneurship. Our podcast website, insurtechstory.com, and we are available on Spotify, Apple, and Google. Welcome to today's show, and we are going to discuss on a very interesting topic how Insurtech can shape the future of employee health benefits. And for now, I'm delighted to welcome our guest, Michael Levin, who is the co founder and CEO of Vericred, a company that connects insurtech companies and insurance carriers through a suite of APIs that transform the speed, reliability, and efficiency of delivering health insurance and employee benefits to consumers everywhere. Just to add to this, the company is based in New York and backed by leading investors. Vericred offers robust solutions for the employer market as well as the under 65 individual Medicaid and Medicare markets. Levin identified the problem that Vericred was founded to solve while he served as Chief Operating Officer for Affiliates Risk Management Services, in short, ARMS, an insurance risk management and e-learning services provider for healthcare professionals. Prior to ARMS, Levin disrupted the color printed supply business with the first company he founded, Media Sciences. After a decade of growing the company to a peak NASDAQ market cap of $80 million, dollars, the company was split in two and sold to Xerox and Katoon. Levin received his Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Lehigh University. He and his wife Nancy have four sons and lives in New Jersey. That's a fantastic ending. So, Michael, welcome on board, and I'm truly excited to have you for the show.
Hello, Surya. Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for that that very kind introduction.
Welcome again. So, without any further ado, let me jump into a discussion today. And my first point for you, being in the insurtech business, how you think the future of technology will shape the benefits industry.
Well, that's a big question that, if you don't mind, I'll break into three different pieces and think about that from the member perspective, talk about it from an innovation perspective, and finally from an efficiency perspective.
Right.
So starting from the member, look, health insurance and employee benefits is kind of a painful experience for us as individuals. It's still often paper based. The language is not language that necessarily folks understand. The process of selecting and enrolling in benefits is pretty painful. And all of that's within the context that these are really important financial products intended to protect us from a what could be terrible situations through these coverages. So for there to be this disconnection in the experience around these products and the intended benefit is stunning. And part of what we're doing is enabling this industry to deliver great or delightful experiences to individuals, bringing transparency, bringing understanding, bringing choice to the market, and bringing simplicity really to what has always otherwise been a very complex space. So let me just pause there, and you may have other questions that go along from a member perspective.
Sure. You have rightly mentioned very two significant points there. That is transparency and simplicity. I think when we actually talk about benefits as a business, even the insurance brokers and others who are facilitators, there's some sort of a confusion, lack of awareness, and certainly lack of transparency that exists, right? So
Yep.
if you come in as a technology supporter and try to bridge this gap, I think insurtech, or rather any digital transformation that's happening in insurance industry, they are specifically focusing on particular types like motors, some on the cyber side, and other like space industry, for example. But benefits is something which I personally have not seen much of disruptions that have happened there, right? So if you would like to, it'll be really great, like for our listeners, if you could little bit of elaboration that you can bring in on the simplicity part and the transparency part,
Sure.
especially from
Yeah.
how it can benefit the middlemen like brokers and others.
Yeah, I mean, so you hit on really a key element here, and that is this industry really hasn't gone through its digital transformation. Modern experiences are limited or very siloed, and the fundamental reason why that is that data and connectivity in this space, in the health insurance and employee benefit space, is in itself very limited. So, what does that mean? Well, you have great companies that have an idea for fixing a problem. Maybe it's helping you find a doctor or help your a senior through their medical challenges or simply to select insurance. So companies are rising to solve these problems, and they expect the underlying data that they need to solve those problems to be readily available and to be available through APIs, but it hasn't been. They've been stuck in silos and proprietary formats and with limited connectivity. So it's really inhibited innovation. And actually, that was that second bucket there, is that this lack of infrastructure has so limited innovation for all constituents in space, whether it's the individual or the employer, or importantly, the broker themselves. So by providing connectivity and simplifying the exchange of data, we are essentially enabling all those folks and others to innovate and to fix the problems that are just self-evident. And there's a second layer to this as well. And I use the analogy of auto insurance, and you're seeing more and more auto insurers come out with the ability to essentially insure your car, but you pay by mile instead of paying kind of that straight annual or 6 month fee. And the reason that they can do that is because now there are these devices that you plug into the port, the ODB port of your car that track your mileage, and they can feed that back. And for those that don't put a lot of miles on, like my mother who's older, doesn't drive a lot, she can pay less than someone who's a road warrior putting 20,000 miles on their car a year.
Right.
All of that's been made possible by digital infrastructure. So part of what we think about is, with digital infrastructure and health and benefits, how might these products be distributed in the future, and how might new products and new delivery means and methods be deployed? And I think that's the next layer of innovation. The first layer being, let's solve those self-evident problems. It shouldn't be hard to find a plan or a doctor, and then let's enable new products and new distribution to arise.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we are certainly in a world that's connected from everywhere. I mean, although in some ways it's scary, but it's fine. That's how it's going to be. So and the time is absolutely perfect for benefits industry to get disrupted, like other segments of the insurance business. So fantastic
It
thoughts there,
is.
um, Michael. So
And just if I,
yeah, sorry,
oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, did I?
No, no, go ahead.
Well, there's that third bucket around efficiency. And, while you and I as individuals may actually enroll in insurance through a website and may look modern, behind the scenes, there's this incredible lack of efficiency. There's double entry, triple entry. There's things that go from screens to paper, back into screens, and there's all this stuff that happens. And ultimately, those inefficiencies manifest themselves in higher costs to individuals,
Hmm.
manifest themselves in terms of coverage issues, billing issues, all sorts of stuff. And again, all these are symptoms of lack of connectivity, lack of data liquidity, getting the right data to the right places at the right time. So, when we think about how technology is going to shape the future of the benefits industry, we think about it from the member experience. We think about efficiency, which certainly includes the member. We also think about it from an innovation perspective, just around new products, new delivery, and new ways to interact with those products.
Right. Yeah. So, moving to some specifics, the employee benefits industry is changing with varied amount of scope with respect to the offerings. The WHO suggested that by 2030, depression will be the world's most widespread disease. So it's clear that there will be no, of course, one size fits all theory. So flexibility will certainly be the key, or rather, if I say from a business term, not just flexibility, also agile. So how do you see technology supporting this to benefit both the insured or the employees and the insurer or the employer?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and you almost have to go back in time and benefits and where they started, and where they're evolving to. So the whole purpose of benefits from an employer perspective is to attract and retain great personnel. And for many, many years, and to a certain extent, it's still the case today. Uh, Health insurance and employee benefits in the workplace is what's discussed as defined benefit, and it's very patriarchal. And what that means is, okay, as the employer, this is what we think you need in your benefits package. This kind of health insurance and dental and vision, and we're going to do that 401k and life and disability. But what's so clear, and I think the last couple of years of COVID have made this even clearer, is that our needs as individuals differ dramatically from one another, right? What I need is very different from a 21-year-old right out of college, and what someone needs if they have a mental health challenges is different from someone who has financial challenges, and all these needs are different. So where the industry is marching towards is defined contribution. Instead of saying this is the benefits that you're going to get, here's a bucket of money, and here are your options, and you can go deploy your dollars, your benefit dollars, as you see fit. And this one creates a much more tailored experience for the member. If someone needs diabetes support, they can put money into diabetes support. But if that's not an issue for them, they may want to defer that money into their 401k, so they can tailor their benefits to meet their needs and their family's needs at a point of in time. For the employer, who's seeking to retain, this is great to be able to deliver that effectively customized solution for each individual, building their own portfolio of coverages. This is a wonderful opportunity and very, very attractive. And then for the carriers, the insurers whom you mentioned, this opens up the opportunity to bring new coverages to the market. And here in the U.S., pet insurance is kind of this growing category. It's a pretty small market compared to Europe, where it's pretty dominant. That's now a big employee benefit, and you think about identity theft and legal coverage, and maybe even home warranties. All of these different coverages can be brought into that employer environment, and from which an employee, in choosing to how they're going to deploy their benefit dollars, can select from. So it works for the individual, it works for the employer, and it works for the insurer.
Right. This differentiation, I think it's certainly going to be much beneficial to the listeners because there's a lots of confusion that lies in the industry. And you have mentioned there a kind of a tailored approach, right? So uh, my assumption is what you are trying to say. It's a customer centric approach there. So
It's
is that right?
Yes, that you're spot on.
Right.
Working from the members' needs backwards, right? Whether that's transparency or choice or selection, start with the member and work backwards. Yes.
Right. And do you think also data personalization and robust partnership models are also critical for such developments?
I do because when you think about bringing in all these different elements, and was up on my soapbox, I was talking about health and dental and pet and legal and all of that. If someone's going to make choices, how do they do that? Do
Right.
they just
Yeah.
do that gutturally, right? Or what are the feeders? What are their experiences that can be fed into that process, and ultimately provide where a member or an individual can be provided with decision support, okay, to help them in that journey because this is complex. It's a lot of different stuff. And at that moment, while you're going through this journey, you may not be thinking about it. But here's where data partnerships and other sources of data and more connectivity can aid in the process. So why
True.
not have
Yep.
your claims data, right, flow in, right? That's one example. I'm sorry, you were about to say something.
No, I just said absolutely what you're saying. I mean, it's a complete
Um,
alignment.
yeah, some you may forget the name of that drug, but if it's coming in from your claims data, you won't forget it, and that the cost of a single drug can move the needle here in terms of your total cost of healthcare,
Yep.
and other elements as well. So this is such an opportunity for our industry.
Yes. Yes. And I believe there's a huge gap in this benefit segment, and it's not that many of the technology startups have come up to actually bridge this part. Um, to look at the digital side a bit, there's a rising focus on digital tools. Um, However, as per a study done by the ENY, I mean, 28% of middlemen like brokers and agents are less satisfied with tools offered by insurance companies. So, what's your experience in this, and how you see this moving ahead?
Yeah, I mean, what the insurance companies are wrestling with is lack of engagement with the tools they're offering, right?
Right.
And that can happen to brokers. It can also happen with on the member side. But let's step back. I use Apple Music. You may use Spotify. Okay. I may shop on Amazon. You may shop somewhere else. We like to engage with our providers and our products where we want to, right? Through the tools that we want to choose. And this is one of the reasons that engagement for carrier supplied tools or insurer supplied tools has been so low. People don't want to use them. They want to use the tools that they want to use. So why are brokers are they less satisfied? Because they don't want to use one tool from this health insurance carrier and another tool from that one and a third from this dental carrier, and they have to remember all the different ways to navigate them, let alone their login information. They want to use the tools that are right for their business, for their job, for their market. And one of the reasons why that's been difficult, again, is around connectivity. Because if those tools that those brokers want to use can't get access to the data and the quotes and the enrollment and the doctors and all that, then they're forced to use all those disparate tools and to the detriment of the broker and to their client. So, how do I see that changing? With more connectivity, will enable more of those tools to be used by all different constituents, including brokers, to meet their needs and to meet their changing needs.
Right. So the key takeaway from this would be for our listeners that how connectivity can be administered and how the infrastructure to leverage the connectivity would certainly uh, demonstrate how the tools can be offered and functioned.
Yeah. So
Right?
let me give you an analogy, if I may.
Yes, please.
I can. I'm way older than you, but there was a time when you went to a store and used a credit card, and I remember this. You give them the credit card, and the first thing they would do is look up in a book to see whether that number was fraudulent. And then they would swipe. They had this piece of paper and then this machine. Then they would swipe it, and that charge would be processed through. And it was painful and slow, and the merchant got paid slower, and wasn't a great consumer experience. Well, look at where we are now, where you can go with your iPhone and pay for something, and instantaneously you see that charge. This is what the benefits industry has been lacking, and this is the problem that we here at Vericred are solving for. And when you solve that, you create efficiencies, you create better experiences for all the different constituents here. So we're talking about really a massive step forward in modernization of an industry that has been pretty stagnant for far too long.
Right. True. You know, again, looking at the global trends that's happening, like for example, an increase in work from home culture, um, how the entire working model is changing. Um, a great amount of focus is coming on mental well-being of employees, and
Yeah.
also from the policy side, companies are more inclined to create their policies global than just regional or country specific or localized. And and on basis of these aspects, employee benefits are also designed, or rather employers are looking to design in a way that can be beneficial all across the organization. So, according to you, how what will influence the future of the benefit design industry? How do you see this aspect going?
Well, with that sounding like a broken record, connectivity is key to driving these flexible experiences. And you overlay that with that shift from defined benefit to defined contribution, where we as individuals can go out and select the types of coverages and the amounts of coverages that we want, as opposed to that which is imposed upon us. So I think that's the first win is just have a simplified uh, um, uh, environment or ecosystem that is much more customizable, more bespoke for each of us. And then, I go back to that car analogy. What's going to come, as we provide this type of connectivity? What is the health insurance and employee benefits equivalent to paying by mile? And, might that be selecting certain coverages based on I'm going skiing and, I'm at risk for breaking a leg. I'm going to buy accident insurance at the point of sale when I'm buying my ski ticket, right? Or my when I'm going on the scuba dive. So might we see shifts like that? What other types of new distribution may come? In the UK, you get your auto insurance. You can buy it at a gas station, petrol station. How might that change here and that distribution as the underlying digital infrastructure evolves? So, I think at a high level, just stepping back, move towards defined contributions, so more choice, better transparency and better decision support tools, more flexibility in designing one's own basket of coverages that meet their needs. And that's super exciting. And that's very, very different from where it's been and even where it is today.
Yep, absolutely. I think people like you are actually leading the way. I mean, how certain aspects which have not been looked after for so long, and being in the insurance industry, if you look at it, it's kind of a traditionally driven being in the risk management industry, but they itself are risk averse. So it's kind of
Yes.
a exciting journey going ahead, and technology, I'm sure, it's going to push it ahead quite fast. Um, just we are more or less done with our four key discussion points, but I just want to ask one important part, that is, as part of VeryCred, and just for the benefits of our listeners, you one of your important skills is management of data, right? For health insurance, employee benefits, and others. So, could you please explain a bit more what VeryCredit does? What's your motivation behind this, and how do you see the clients and insureds can get benefited?
Sure. So I've shared some of the symptoms of the problem. The problem is lack of standards, lack of connectivity, all these data silos, and a lot of participants. There's a lot of carriers and benefit providers, and a lot of technology companies that are trying to create these better experiences. What's missing is the in between, and that's what we are.
Right.
So we're providing connectivity and simplifying the exchange of data, and that's remarkably difficult to do in this industry, and it's one of the reasons why infrastructure needs to be the solution because for any one tech company and one carrier to connect is a huge lift, and both in terms of development and timeline and all that kind of stuff. So anyone trying to build an industry-wide solution, it's just untenable. So what do? We provide the connectivity. We create an abstraction layer of the data so that our partners on both sides always get the data exactly the same way, regardless of how it's being sent by the other side. And we do this all through our pipes. We don't build anything that's user facing. It's all around data and connectivity.
Fantastic. So, to our listeners, on behalf of Michael, don't forget to check out the website of VeryCred. That's verycred.com. It's beautifully designed, very informative for all benefits users. So, ensure to have a click on that. So, with that, Michael, thank you very much. It's a fantastic discussion. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and truly a delight to have you as our guest.
Surya, thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed chatting with you today, and hope I can do so again at some point in the future.
Absolutely. And lastly, to wrap this up, thank you for listening, and see you at our next episode. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye for now.